Hey everyone, welcome back. And in this video, let's just go ahead and take a look at how you can speed up your React application components by using React.Memo. Now, first things first, you should use React.Memo with components which are rendering very often, and you might be doing, not even like very complicated calculations, but even if you're doing a fairly to moderate calculations, but you're rendering it a lot of times, then it's probably a good time to memoize the function. Now you might remember from the hooks tutorial is that you can use useMemo hook to memoize a particular function inside the React component or a particular value. But there's a better way, or not really better, but there's another way where you can actually memoize the component itself. So first things first, let me just walk you over through what this application is doing, which I have prepared very quickly. So what you can see is our main application has a state variable flip and set flip. Whenever you enter into the UL tag, that is the list of this all stuff, you can actually do an h2 of hello UL so that we have a little bit of distinction here and space as well. So whenever you enter into this, you can see that it turns the background of the UL blue. Right now, once you enter, it sets the flip to true. Once you leave, it sets the flip to false. If the flip is true, the background is orange, otherwise it's white. Simple enough. Now, obviously this means that whenever you are entering into the UL tag, your background will become orange, and when you leave, it becomes white. Now, similar thing with custom li. With custom li, what I'm doing is that I'm eventually returning an li, but I'm doing the same thing, flip and set flip, and use state of false. So whenever I enter it, it sets the flip to true, otherwise it sets the flip to false. If the flip is true, we have the background as green, otherwise pink. Now this means that whenever I'm entering into an li, you can see that particular li becomes green and the other ones are pink, right? And you can see because I'm inside the UL tag, well, the background is also blue. So what the hell is happening here? You can see that I also have a number right here with every single li, right? And this number, if you have watched the React hooks, advanced hooks video, you know what's happening here. We create a ref, which is sort of, not really sort of, it will be the same object all the time. So it creates an object, just to give you a crash course. If you do not know, I would highly recommend you to watch the advanced React hooks course on Codedamn first of all, if you want to understand this in a much better way. But this will create an object which will always return this object on every single render, right? So it will not mutate it, it will not return a new object, nothing like that. So every single render, we have not specified any dependency. So this means that every time our custom li is re-rendering, we will call this function. Now, once we call this function, it updates the render count and we just display it on the screen. So what's happening now is that if you go ahead and see, if I try to, go out of UL, go in, go out, go in, go out, you could see the obvious problem that when the UL is re-rendering, it is also re-rendering all of the LIs, right? So this might not feel like a lot, but say if you have a lot of elements to play with and you're doing a lot of computation in every single li rendering, right? Maybe an HTTP call, not really an HTTP call, but some sort of computation. So this will quickly add up and degrade your performance with large number of LIs or with a heavy computation. So how do we solve this? We solve this by memoizing a component. Now, what does that mean? That means that just like useMemo can memoize a function or a value inside the component, you can use something known as React.Memo to memoize a component itself, right? And the way you would do it is you will say React.Memo custom li, and you're going to assign custom li again, right? So that's why I did not write const here. Otherwise I would have written const. So what you say is custom li is React.Memo custom li, and that is it. And this will make a wonderful change in your application performance. So now when I refresh it, you can see now whenever I'm hovering in and out of UL, we do not get any additional renders. The only renders which we get is whenever you are hovering over the LIs themselves, right? So you can see we do not get any renders whenever I'm moving in and out of the UL. Compare this to what was happening without the memoization. So if I hit save, refresh this, now you can see that every single time I'm entering and leaving the LI, it is re-rendering this particular component and all the LIs as well, which grows to a lot of rendering very quickly, right? So what does this line do? What this line will tell React that, hey, I have remembered the component and what this component returns. Now I'm gonna call this function. I have actually memoized the result as well. So React has memoized what this component returns, the UI, right? So React says, I'm not going to call this function ever again until and unless the props which you send in this component are different. You know, the props could be children, the props could be the regular props which you're sending, anything. So if the parent does never really changes the props of the component, I will never re-render this component, right? And of course, this could re-render internally because of the state, but externally, it will only re-render whenever there's a prop change. And because the prop change never really happens because you have static data, static everything, therefore, whenever you hover over this UL, never is, the component re-rendered because the props never really change. Let's compare this to, for example, you can, for example, for this, you can say some prop1 is math.random. So this will always change, right? So now if I refresh this, you can see the first one starts changing because math.random every single time will return a different value. And the reason it happens is because your parent component is already re-rendering for the first, whenever the color toggles, and then it sees that, hey, prop1 has changed. React.memo sees that prop1 has changed, therefore time to re-render. If you have something like math.random, random is greater than 0.5. So this is a true or false value, right? It's a Boolean value. So it might re-render or it might not re-render depending on, the result. So you see, sometimes we get an increment, sometimes we do not. So that's one way to go about. However, if you never really had memoization in place, then every single component will re-render every single time, irrespective of their props are changing or not. Right? So this is how, in a nutshell, React.memo works. You can also specify a comparator function yourself, which we'll see in the next video what that is. But that will allow you to have even finer control in terms of how your re-rendering is happening. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I'm gonna see you in the next one really soon.